What's up, ladies and gents, and welcome back to, what is it called? Trucking and Stories, yes. Where we truck around the USA and we talk about a variety of things. So hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all staying safe. Hope you're all having a good time, preferably. And why am I recording another video so soon? Yes, these videos only come out when I feel like I have to talk about something, and what I have to talk about is... No, I'm not talking about Ukraine. I'm not going to do it. And the reason why I'm not going to do it is that other people can do it much better than I can. Alright, there are people who can paint a much better picture of a situation, that can put things much better into context. And while it is a topic that fits my niche of interest, as someone who is very interested in modern history, this topic obviously touches a lot of points that I am very interested in and that I spend some time going over, and that I have spent some time looking into in the past. And I could probably talk about some things here, but I don't want to, because I feel like we should only talk about things when we are competent in a field and when we have some sort of expertise in a field. And what I notice is, and that is what I actually want to talk about, everyone opens their mouth and has an opinion about everything. Now, it's fine to have an opinion. Obviously, everyone can have an opinion. But I feel like when you make a video, obviously you can always make a video and you can outline that opinion, but I prefer when people put their opinion out there that it is based on some sort of knowledge, expertise, experience, whatever it might be. And what we see a lot is, especially in the age of social media, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it might be, everyone feels the need to share their opinion, alright? And everyone feels the need to act like they are an expert on certain things. And I've noticed this a lot already with COVID, when people come out of woodworks and act like they are scientists, and they probably haven't even heard of falsification before. Alright, so one of the very basic core principles of scientific work. And you talk to those people and you can tell, well, they picked up some information here and there, and they are just basically copying what they read somewhere, and they're throwing that information out because they can't verify any of it. They just hear it and they blurt it out. Sorry. But that doesn't make them experts on the field. That just means they informed about something, and it seems believable to them. So what they do is they repeat that information that they picked up and they spread it around. Whereas it would make much more sense to forward inquiring people to the sources they have, so that those people can also read up and take the time to inform about certain things. And you saw a lot of people have what probably looks like a scientific discussion, but that is so far removed from it to the point where you think, well, what is this? Well, like, they just focus on that one thing that they read, but there is so much more to situations, and you can see the same thing with Ukraine now. People pick up bits of information here and there, and that is what they wrap their argument around, and they just don't have a full view of the things in play. And I'm not saying that I know everything. I'm not saying that I have a full understanding of what is going on. But the first thing that you need to know is that you do not know everything about the situation unfolding. Now, A, because we're not there, but also B, because only very few of us have actual access to the required information. And I doubt those who do have it will come onto YouTube and tell the world, right? I mean, even though some newspapers have headlines like, "We know the secret plans of Vladimir Putin." No, you don't. You probably do not. So, knowing that you have these information bubbles that also exist on social media, you will have to try and verify things, and you will have to put in a lot of effort to do that yourself, to know what you deem believable and what not. And a lot of people are not willing to go that extra mile and put in that effort. And that's totally fine. Now, you don't need to blurt out an opinion on literally every topic out there, alright? You don't need to act like a makeshift expert, like you just became an expert on a topic on the fly. And for example, everyone acted like they're a virologist during the COVID pandemic by repeating certain things that they read from virologists, right? And oftentimes they acted like they know better than the virologists, which is like, imagine whatever job you work, you work it for 30 years, and then someone comes along and reads about it for 10 minutes on Facebook and is like, well, I know better than you. You're doing your job entirely wrong. I'm sorry. And this whole concept of, especially in an evolving situation, of saying, well, this or that person said something in the past which is now no longer true. Well, that's the nature of evolving situations. That's true with the pandemic, that's true with the war. It's almost impossible to know things in advance. What you can do is make educated guesses, and people with experience in fields that matter in relation to the crisis at hand or to the situation at hand are wildly better at making educated guesses. That does not mean they can't be wrong. And being wrong is vital to making progress. Because being wrong means you can then say, okay, this didn't work, but I have learned from this X and Y, like whatever it might be. And then by learning from being wrong, you move forward, getting closer to where you want to be. So being wrong is very vital, and that's basically the concept of falsification. Is you put out a thesis and you see if you can debunk that. That's a very, very basic explanation of a concept. So people then go out there and say, well, this or that person has said this or that in the past, but now it's come different, so they are not an expert, or they don't know how to do their job. No, that's not how it works. And the thing you need to look at, whether it's COVID, whether it's the war in Ukraine, or when you look at history and you discuss the wars of the past, the crisis of the past, is that when you take measures, you basically have assumptions at the start. And when one of those assumptions that you make, one of those ideas that you have, like, you basically set the situation. And when you say, assuming that this and that is the case, I expect this or that result. But if one of your assumptions turns out to be incorrect, then what that means is your conclusion will be incorrect because the parameters were wrong. Alright? And when your parameters are wrong in that sense, then it becomes very difficult. There's a car on our inside here. Then your result will almost certainly be wrong as well because the parameter changed, right? So let's say with the war in Ukraine, the people that said, well, we doubt that Vladimir Putin is going to invade Ukraine, the parameter probably was the cost-benefit analysis does not lead to war because the cost would be pretty high and the benefit would be pretty low. And especially with the military aids that Ukraine has received over the years and the military training, that obviously drives up the cost of invading, that drives up the defense. And when you come to the conclusion, alright, so there is a power play in planting your army at the border to put yourself into a good negotiating position, but you don't expect the invasion because of a cost analysis. So if that is the assumption you made, that this is the ground upon which the decision is made, then you come to the conclusion there is not going to be an invasion. Now, and the fact of the matter is, and I mean, experts in the field have assumed that based on those assumptions. But the assumption was wrong, that this is the reason. So that's just, you assumed wrongly that the decision of war is going to be made up on that parameter. Well, it obviously wasn't. And now you have these experts on the internet coming up with all... No! I took damage. Damn it. I wanted to have a perfect delivery and now I took damage. I should have been more careful. Anyway, so there is this issue here that, especially with Twitter, where it's so easy to put out information or to put out your thoughts, you can come up with so many theories about things. But you will also quickly see a lot of people, and in fact most people, do not understand what is going on. Oi, this is tight. And the fact that they do not understand what is going on, like you saw that with COVID, you saw that with basically literally every topic you see people being experts on the internet, despite not having a clue on what is going on. Like, they view things as being very simple when they are not. And that is the issue. Basically what I work in is the tax field, and so I would say things where I really have expertise in is obviously the tax system. It is accounting, cost analysis, like everything in that sense. To a lesser extent, social security laws, payroll laws, etc. So I would say like that's basically where I have my expertise, because I've worked with it for years. And then I would say things that I can comment on is the things that I've spent a lot of time in private informing myself and getting better at it. So that would be modern history, like I mentioned before, to a lesser extent ancient history in the sense of Roman history, with a focus on the time of Caesar and Hannibal. And well, modern history would be with a heavy focus on World War II, which, as I am German, is kind of the thing that interests you, you know. It's just a very important topic, being in Germany and understanding the history of the country you live in. So I would say those are things that I am confident talking about. And being somewhat competent in modern history, I feel like I am somewhat competent in putting the current conflict into perspective. But like I said, I do not want to go in depth on it, because I still feel like there are so many actual experts on the topic out there that can do that better than I can. But you will notice quickly when you talk to people on the internet, or when you follow discussions, when you read comments, you will quickly notice, okay, let's say you talk about, for example, I don't know, an Indian solution to the conflict. And then people won't know what an Indian solution is. And then you go into, well, the split of India and Pakistan after it became independent from the UK. And I ask, well, what do you mean the split? What is that? And it was a horrible time for the people there. Like, millions died in the resettlement, and it was brutal. It was absolutely atrocious. But at the end, you had two separate areas. You had the Muslim area in Pakistan, and you had it was a Hindu, I think, or Buddhist. I'm terrible with those religions. I think Buddhist areas, and see, with those religions I'm not very good, but you basically had those two separate areas, which would work pretty well in Ukraine with having a pro-Western part of the country and split off and have a pro-Eastern country split off on the eastern side, or a pro-Russian country split off on the eastern side. So that is basically one solution that you could argue about it. Like, when you argue with people, like, you will notice that a lot of people you have those discussions with, they don't know about such things. They just come up with whatever. And they also don't know about geopolitics, they don't know about chronopolitics, they don't know about how things interact with another. They don't know about that. For example, here you hear a lot of, well, we should immediately stop importing gas from Russia and that will end the war. You really think that ends the war from today to tomorrow? Are you crazy? Like, talking about the issue is one thing, and making pros and cons, but if you go into a discussion with completely wrong assumptions, like the war will just magically end if we do that, like then you don't need to have a discussion because your assumption is obviously wrong, and that's just a bit unfortunate, you know. I kind of want to restart or not restart the delivery, but try again to have a perfect one, but I also kind of want to finish it because, you know, it's quite a hefty penalty for abandoning it. Anyway, it deeply annoys me when people with literally no clue go on the internet and act like they are experts. Again, you see it with all sorts of topics. One very prominent topic, obviously, being mental disease or psychology in general. Another topic being climate change. That's a topic I'm not commenting on much because I'm no expert on it and I don't put very much time into it. So the best I have is basic knowledge. But I wish people would really start commenting only on topics that they at least put a certain amount of time in. Like, at least make an effort to inform yourself properly and not just read some headlines, but really inform yourself properly, put in the time and effort to become at least somewhat competent at the topic you are talking about, and then form an opinion and talk about it. It's totally fine to not have an opinion on everything. Or at least, if you have an opinion, without informing beforehand, being so open to say, well, okay, I have an opinion on the very limited information that I have, but I am open to change that opinion if further evidence or facts are brought up that I am just unaware of because I have not invested the time and effort. Like, at least be that open to say, okay, I have an opinion because, well, it is a topic and I have an opinion, alright? But if you provide me with further evidence that my opinion is trash, then I am willing to listen and also willing to maybe change that opinion. That would be good, right? That would be a step. A first step. I would appreciate that. Because we have enough people talking about things that they have no idea of. And I know it's very tempting to talk about things and have a strong opinion. And it's even more tempting to have such a strong opinion that you view everything in black and white. It's very tempting. Because then you have someone being on the good side and someone being on the bad side, and I totally missed a spot to sleep here. But the fact of the matter is, we have enough people doing that. And literally nobody can admit anymore that they were wrong about something. But what's the point of having a discussion then? And this ties very much into what I said last video about being able to recognize the other side. If you are unwilling to recognize the other side, there is no point in having a discussion. And I feel like internet discussions and internet, well, so-called experts, or they act like experts, they aren't experts, obviously. We have enough of those. We have enough people doing that, and it is sickening to read of them. And I think, especially with the advent of social media, we are more and more encouraged also to share our opinion. But when you are uninformed, maybe you shouldn't do that. And obviously you can't really regulate that, because there is no way to only allow commenting on a topic if you have spent X amount of time actually learning about the topic, reading up on the topic, listening to something about the topic, whatever it might be. So it's just, you will quickly notice when you go online and you read the discussions, people that A, have their history together, because obviously a lot about this conflict has also to do with history, at least when you follow the reasoning that is officially given. You have your geopolitics together, you have your chronopolitics together, and you at least know the basic concepts of what is at play here. And if you don't, then just don't speak on it and say, well, I am following the situation as it develops. But like, I don't really feel like commenting on the whole thing in general. And another thing that bugs me a little bit is the amount of memes going on that are A, completely wrong, and B, I feel like sometimes don't take into account that those are serious situations. I mean, we had a pandemic, we have a war now, those are serious things, and I mean, it's great to have your moment of posting a meme, and it's good to not lose your humor, but sometimes I feel like we lose respect for people that are dying there. Especially on the Russian side. And it would be problematic if we now act like all Russians are evil and deserve to die. And now I am talking about Ukraine a little bit, aren't I? But that is something that really has been weighing on my mind. Like, we can't just go out there now and say that all Russians are evil. Like, imagine you're a middle-aged Russian man, right? And everything you are fed for years is the state propaganda, because the middle-aged Russian man, he speaks only Russian, he earns very little money, he has never been to a different country, and he either doesn't have access to the internet, or the one he has is blocked now. And for years and years he only consumes propaganda, and he believes things that are different from the things that you believe. But that doesn't make him evil. It's just based on the information that he has, he comes to a conclusion, and that conclusion makes sense if you base it on the information that he has. Now, the information is a lot of rubbish based from what we believe, but that doesn't change the fact that they're not just straight up evil. And the way that a lot of institutionalized Russian hate of the past is now revived could be somewhat problematic. I wanna take a rest here. But that's a very deep topic, and I just wanted to brush it on, so to kind of give you food for thought and maybe make you consider things. But basically the point that I'm trying to make for today is, if you do not have any expertise on a topic, if you have very limited knowledge about a topic, then feel free to not participate in the discussion and let people have a discussion that actually knows something about the topic. Feel free to inform about it. Obviously, gaining knowledge is always good. But be confident enough to say, okay, this is a topic I don't have very much knowledge in. Because you can't know everything. You cannot. You cannot be interested in literally every topic ever and have knowledge about that. It's okay to not have knowledge in a topic. It's okay to say, okay, I don't know very much about this. I am not taking part in this particular discussion. When it's about things that I am knowledgeable about, then I will take part in discussions again, but not this one. Because, well, I don't know very much about it. So that is basically the point that I was trying to make here for today. And I don't really want to go into in-depth on the topic at hand. Because again, I feel like other people can do this better. It is a topic I'm interested in, but this is such a touchy topic that I really feel like other people can do this better. And I am not very interested in stirring that up without really having top-notch expertise on it. So I hope that's understandable, and it's basically an example of what I would hope for with other people, is if they're not really knowledgeable about something, that they would just shut up. But I feel like if people only actually talked about stuff when they have the slightest of clue, then the world would be a pretty quiet place. I mean, it's okay to discuss things. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't have discussions about the topics. That's fine. But what really bugs me is when you're uninformed about a topic, or you have very limited information, and you act like your information is superb and you're an expert and your opinion is bulletproof, so to speak. So that is really what bugs me. It's not so much that people are discussing things, because having discussions, like, you can learn from discussions if you're open to learning things from it. But if you're not, it's problematic. And yeah, we really don't need a whole lot more of it. We really don't. And I am very glad for everyone who puts in a lot of time and effort into learning about things, and then goes and shares his view on a certain topic. I am very glad for people that do the research, put in the time and the effort, and put out the information in a very easy to understand manner, and that really put in the time and effort to do that. I'm very glad for those people. But what we don't need is, well, in my opinion, it's this and that. No, we don't need that. Like, if you base your opinion on something on something, literally anything, then sure, fine, but what we see way too often is just baseless opinions, and like I said, we really don't need very much more of that. Really have enough of these so-called experts. I mean, don't you just love it when you talk to people? And that's another topic that I will talk on in a future video, but I just want to quickly brush over it. Like, don't you just love it when you have people with depression and you have these people with opinions again telling them to man up or something, or hey, your life isn't so bad, why are you complaining, and etc, etc, etc. We all know how it's talked down, right? When you're like, if you don't know what it's like for people with depression dealing with it, when you don't know anything about that, or mental issues in general, when you have no clue about how it can affect people and how it can turn people into a shell of their former selves, then why don't you just shut up about it? Offer your condolences and shut up. Say, well, I hear you, but like I can't really imagine that. Like it's hard for me to imagine it. It's something and it is. If you have literally no contact with something like that whatsoever, it is hard to imagine that, right? But just be open enough to say it. Be open enough to say, okay, well, I don't really know much about that. I'm sorry. I can't really help you with that. I don't have much of an opinion on it because I just don't know much about it. It's perfectly fine. And I think if you have a job and you have worked at it for many years, and you would describe yourself pretty good at it, you will also say, well, there are certain things in my job that I'm very good at and that I'm confident speaking on, and other things in my job that maybe I'm not an expert on because, well, I didn't focus on it as much, and you don't really want to comment on it or don't want to work on it. And feel free to do the same thing in your private life. To say, okay, well, there are things that I put a lot of time and effort in learning, and I feel confident talking about it, and when there are things, okay, I don't feel confident talking about it because I did not invest the time and effort needed to talk about it in a way that I can defend the claims that I am making. And that's another thing, like, sometimes you can talk about a topic, but only to a certain extent, alright? So it's like, okay, based on the information that I have, I can probably make an estimated, or an educated guess, not an estimated, an educated guess that this or that is the case based on this or that information that I have, but I cannot comment any further on it because I do not have more information. Like really putting things into context, and just, we don't discuss like that. We just throw out something, and I commented on that in the last video already. Like we literally just throw out bits of shit and throw it at each other. That's not a discussion. That doesn't lead anywhere. And it's the same thing with all these fake experts that spring out of nowhere. And like literally nobody cares about war for the better part of like 20 years, ever since the Iraq war started. I mean, everyone cared about that when it started, but then it became boring pretty quickly, I guess. And ever since then, nobody really cared about a war. And all of a sudden a war breaks out, and everyone is suddenly an expert on it, despite not really having any interest in it for a better part of 20 years, or even longer maybe. And the only time you hear or see anything about a war is maybe from a war movie that you watched one time. That doesn't make you an expert, you know? So it's difficult, to say the least, because obviously people want to discuss it. A lot of people also have, that is now based on personal experience, a lot of people have a need to share what they think, but they do not have the ability to say, okay, this is what I think about it, but like I don't really know how to put my thoughts into context, like I don't really know how to form an opinion on it, but I have these thoughts about it. They just blurt out their thoughts as if they are facts. And I think a lot of people just don't have the rhetoric ability. What on earth has happened there? They just don't have the rhetorical ability to outline what they think, how they think about it, in which way they think about it, and to put it into qualifiers. So really saying, okay, I have this and that thought about it, and really put things into context on what their knowledge is based on. Like, we don't really know how to do that anymore, I feel like. People just blurt out their thoughts, unfiltered, without context, without qualifiers, without any reasoning on why they think that way. And then they just stand there on the internet and people will discuss them in a very unproductive manner. And everyone feels like admitting that they have been wrong about something will completely demolish their internet ego. That's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's just, it's crazy how many so-called experts or internet experts, fake experts, just appear on the scene when something like that starts. And everyone knows better. Everyone does. It's absolutely crazy. And if they run out of ideas, they just scream louder. That's best strategy. Alright, that's it for today. That's all I wanted to talk about. Shut up if you don't know what you're talking about. That's basically it. Well, I don't mean to be harsh, like, just consider what you know, how much time you spent, or not necessarily time, but how much effort you put into researching that. Consider, well, do you really know about that, or do you maybe only know about certain aspects of it? Be open to learn more about it from people that know of other aspects. And be wary of the information you find online, because a lot of people post a lot of crap. Sorry. Maybe try to look further into details. Don't just believe everything that people that put out opinions claim on the internet, right? Look it up, read it up, put some effort into it. Try to confirm things for yourself, see if things are believable. I know it's a lot of effort, but if you truly want to take part in a discussion, then some effort has to be put into it. Expertise in a field doesn't just exist in your brain. It doesn't just manifest itself overnight. It doesn't fly into your head. You have to put effort into it. And I feel like a lot of people aren't willing to do that. They would rather just copy something they have read once somewhere and make that their point, and they're actually willing to die on that hill, regardless of other evidence coming in. Like, they read this once and that's what it is. Even if it's just in a Telegram group. They read it once. And on that note, hope you all take care. Hope you spend your time talking about things that you know something about. I try to. I don't always succeed. You probably don't neither. You know. But we can try to be better, right? Sometimes, maybe. A man can hope, a man can dream. Alright, hope you do well, hope you stay safe. And until next time, farewell.